The rain-slicked streets of Seattle blurred past my windshield as I gripped the steering wheel, my heart hammering like a war drum. I was late, again, racing to my parents' sprawling estate in Bellevue to pick up my 6-year-old daughter, Lily. The deposition had run long, a brutal marathon of corporate legalese, and my phone had died mid-argument, leaving me cut off from the world. As a high-powered attorney, I was used to juggling chaos, but tonight felt different. A gnawing unease twisted in my gut, like a warning whispered by some primal instinct. I pressed the gas harder, the hum of my BMW's engine a faint comfort against the storm raging outside and inside me. A flash of headlight snapped me back to the road. A pickup truck veered into my lane, its driver staring down at a glowing phone screen. My breath caught as I swerved, tires screeching, the car fishtailing on the wet asphalt. For a split second, I saw Lily's face, her hazel eyes, her shy smile, and my heart screamed. The truck missed me by inches, its horn blaring as it sped off into the night. I pulled over, hands shaking, pulse pounding in my ears. "Get it together, Sarah," I muttered, forcing air into my lungs. I was a corporate shark, a Yale law grad who'd clawed her way to the top of Seattle's legal scene. I didn't have time for panic attacks. Lily was waiting. I pulled back onto the road, the estate's iron gates looming ahead like a fortress from my childhood. My parents' home was a monument to their status. 6 bedrooms, a manicured lawn, a view of Lake Washington that screamed old money. But it was a house built on secrets, on favoritism that had carved scars into my soul. Growing up, I was the shadow to my sister Emily's light, the daughter who could never measure up. At 12, I got a hand-me-down sweater for Christmas while Emily pranced around in a designer wardrobe, her laughter echoing through our perfect home. My father, Robert, a retired tech CEO with a voice that could shake walls, never let me forget I was second best. "Why can't you be more like Emily?" he'd thunder, while my mother, Margaret, the queen of Seattle's socialite scene, nodded in silent agreement. I shook off the memories as I parked beside Emily's cherry-red Range Rover, its bumper kissing the garage door in her usual careless style. She wasn't supposed to be here. My parents watched Lily on Tuesdays and Thursdays to save me from Seattle's astronomical nanny fees, a begrudging arrangement I'd accepted as a single mom. But Emily's presence set my nerves on edge. Her twins, Chloe and Sophie, were 10 and 12, spoiled rotten with ski trips and iPads, while Lily came home, quieter each visit, her spark dimming like a candle in the wind. The front door was ajar, a careless habit I'd begged my parents to break. I slipped inside, the familiar scent of lavender and old money hitting me like a wave. The foyer was dark, but the clatter of dishes and a low, venomous voice drew me toward the kitchen. "You're a worthless burden!" my father roared, each word a blade. My blood froze. I knew that tone, the one that had haunted my childhood, but this time it wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at Lily. I crept forward, my heels silent on the hardwood, and peered through the kitchen doorway. The scene ripped the air from my lungs. Lily stood on a rickety stool, her tiny frame barely reaching the sink. Her curly brown hair was plastered to her face, soaked from dishwater, her hands red and trembling as she wrestled with a cast-iron pan twice her size. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she bit her lip, trying to be brave. My father loomed over her, his face flushed with rage, his teching swagger replaced by a tyrant's sneer. "Can't you do anything right?" he barked, slamming his fist on the counter. A knife teetered on the edge, wobbling inches from Lily's feet. My heart stopped as it fell, clattering to the floor, missing her toes by a whisper. My mother stood by the fridge, arms crossed, her perfectly Botoxed face twisted in a smirk. "You're making a mess, Lily," she chided, as if my daughter's tears were an inconvenience. At the kitchen table, Emily scrolled through Instagram, her manicured nails tapping the screen, while her twins, Chloe and Sophie, giggled viciously. Your dad left because you're pathetic, Chloe whispered, loud enough for Lily to hear. Sophie snickered, her eyes gleaming with malice. Mom says that's why he's gone. Rage surged through me, white-hot and blinding. Michael, my ex-husband, had walked out 3 years ago, trading Lily and me for a startup co-founder with a yoga obsession. I'd rebuilt our lives from the ashes, working grueling hours to keep us afloat, all while secretly paying my parents $4,500.00 monthly mortgage to save their precious estate from foreclosure. 5 years ago, Robert's reckless venture capital bets had tanked, and I'd stepped in, thinking it was temporary, hoping it would finally earn me their respect. Instead, they were tearing my daughter apart. "Stop it! Now!" My voice sliced through the room like a guillotine. 5 heads whipped toward me. Lily's crumpled with relief, my parents with shock, Emily's with annoyance, and the twins with smug defiance. I stormed to the sink, pulling Lily into my arms, her wet clothes soaked through my blouse, her body trembling against mine. "Mummy," she whispered, her voice so small it broke me. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, my voice low but laced with fury. My father recovered first, his eyes narrowing. "Teaching your daughter some responsibility since you clearly haven't," he snapped. "She's a mess, Sarah, just like you were. By calling her worthless, by forcing her to wash pans she can't even lift," I shot back, my control fraying. I turned to Emily, who hadn't looked up from her phone. "And you? Letting your kids bully her? Spreading lies about Michael?" Emily rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. They're just kids." But Chloe's smirk told a different story, one of cruelty nurtured by neglect. I knelt to Lily's level, brushing a wet curl from her face. "Sweetheart, has Grandpa said things like this before?" Her eyes darted to Robert, fear flickering, but she nodded. "He says I'm not as smart as Chloe and Sophie, that I have to work harder to be good enough." The room went silent, the weight of her words crushing the air. My mother shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Emily muttered something about kids exaggerating, but I wasn't listening. I stood, facing my father, who towered over me as he had when I was a child. "You're done," I said, my voice steel. "We're leaving. And don't expect us back." "You can't keep her from us," Margaret hissed, stepping forward. "We're her grandparents." "Watch me," I replied, guiding Lily toward the door. Robert's voice boomed after me. "Don't forget who pays for this family, Sarah. You owe us." I spun around, my heart pounding. "Owe you?" "I've been paying your mortgage for 5 years. Over $250,000, 0 cents to keep this house you couldn't afford, but that ends today." Their faces blanched, the truth I'd kept hidden exploding like a grenade. In the car, Lily curled into her booster seat, her silence louder than any scream. "Am I in trouble, Mummy?" she whispered, her eyes glassy with tears. "No, sweetheart," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Grandpa and Grandma are the ones in trouble." As we drove through Seattle's glittering skyline, Lily's story poured out. Every visit, she was forced to scrub floors, clean bathrooms, even rake the estate's massive lawn, while Chloe and Sophie played on their tablets. They got ice cream. Lily got criticism. They picked games Lily was told to obey. And Robert's words, "worthless, stupid, failure," had been a constant refrain, echoed by Margaret's silence and Emily's indifference. That night, after tucking Lily into bed with extra hugs and a promise of pancakes, I sat at my kitchen island, a glass of Pinot Noir untouched beside my laptop. My hands shook as I logged into my bank account. The transaction history stared back at me. $4,500, 0 cents every month. A chain I'd forged to buy love that never came. I clicked, cancel recurring payment. My finger steady despite the storm in my chest. Then I called my financial advisor, David, ignoring the late hour. "Sarah, you okay?" he asked, his voice groggy but concerned. I'm redirecting the mortgage money to Lily's trust, I said, and I need it locked so no one, especially my parents, can touch it. That's a big move, he said cautiously. You sure? Never been surer, I replied, hanging up before I could second-guess myself. By morning, my phone was a battlefield. 7 missed calls from Robert, 10 from Margaret, and a flood of texts ranging from confusion to rage. Payment declined. Fix this now. You're tearing this family apart, Sarah. I deleted them all, my resolve hardening like concrete. At my law firm, I buried myself in work, but the weight of the previous night clung to me. During lunch, I called Laura, my best friend and a child advocate who'd seen me through Michael's betrayal. You did the right thing, she said after I spilled the story. They're abusing Lily just like they did you. Cutting them off isn't revenge, it's survival. Her words anchored me, but the guilt lingered. I'd spent years believing my parents' happiness was my responsibility, a lesson etched into me by decades of their manipulation. That evening, Emily's texts lit up my phone, venomous and entitled. How dare you cut Mom and Dad off? This is about your childhood grudges, not Lily. She needs to toughen up for the real world. I waited until Lily was asleep before responding. My finances are none of your business, but if your girls ever bully Lily again, you're out of our lives for good. She didn't reply. 3 days later, my bank called. Robert had tried to access my accounts, claiming he had power of attorney. He didn't, but the audacity sent a chill down my spine. I changed every password, every security question, my fingers flying over the keyboard as if locking out a thief. The picture was clear now. My parents didn't see me as a daughter, but as a bank, and they were grooming Lily to feel the same worthlessness I'd carried for years. Lily's pediatrician referred us to a child psychologist, Dr. Martinez, who confirmed my worst fears. Lily shows signs of emotional trauma, she said gently. Anxiety, low self-esteem, fear of failure, all consistent with verbal abuse. The words hit like a punch, but they fueled my resolve. A week later, I found a threatening email from Robert in my inbox. You think you can cut us off and walk away? We'll sue for custody of Lily if you don't fix this. My stomach churned, but I forwarded it to my firm's litigation team. They assured me his threat was baseless, but the audacity shook me. The next morning, I stepped out to find my car's windshield smashed, a note tucked under the wiper, "Pay up or else." The handwriting was unmistakably Robert's, his scrawl as aggressive as his voice. I filed a police report, my hands trembling as I handed over the evidence. Was this what my father had become? A man who'd threaten his own daughter to save his empire? At Lily's school, Emily cornered me in the parking lot, her face twisted with fury. The bank's foreclosing because of you, she hissed, loud enough for other parents to turn. You're destroying Mom and Dad's legacy over a tantrum. I buckled Lily into her seat, keeping my voice low. They abused my daughter, Emily. Call it what you want, but I'm done funding their cruelty. That night, Robert and Margaret showed up at my firm, demanding a meeting during a critical client pitch. Their raised voices echoed through the glass-walled conference room, nearly costing me a $10 million 0 cents deal. I escorted them out, my face burning with humiliation as colleagues whispered, "This isn't over, Sarah," Robert shouted as security led them away. The weeks that followed were a gauntlet. Robert's threats escalated, voicemails promising to ruin my career, attempts to smear me to my partners. But Lily's laughter, her growing confidence in therapy, kept me grounded. She was worth every battle, every scar. And as my parents' estate faced foreclosure, I began to see the truth. Breaking free wasn't just about protecting Lily. It was about reclaiming myself. What would they do next? Would Robert's desperation turn violent? Could I protect Lily and my career from their wrath? And would Emily ever see the damage her silence had caused? The answers lay ahead, but one thing was certain: I'd fight like hell to keep my daughter safe. The Seattle skyline glittered through my office window, a constellation of steel and ambition, but I barely saw it. My desk was a war zone. Legal briefs scattered, a cold coffee staining a deposition transcript, and my laptop screen glowing with the email that had haunted me for days. "You think you can cut us off and walk away? We'll sue for custody of Lily if you don't fix this." My father's words, typed in his blunt, commanding font, felt like a fist closing around my throat. I'd forwarded it to my firm's litigation team, who dismissed it as an empty threat, but the audacity gnawed at me. Robert Thompson, retired tech titan, didn't bluff lightly. He played to win. Always had. And I was his latest opponent. I rubbed my temples, the memory of last week's confrontation in my parents' kitchen searing my mind, Lily's trembling hands and scalding dishwater, my father's venomous, worthless burden, my mother's smirk, and Emily's twins' cruel taunts. Chloe's hiss that Michael left because Lily was pathetic, stormed out with Lily, vowing to end their hold over us, canceling the $4,500 0 cents monthly mortgage payments that had chained me to their Bellevue estate for 5 years. But the fallout was relentless. My car's smashed windshield, the note, "Pay up or else," in Robert's unmistakable scrawl, still sat in an evidence bag at the police station. I changed every password, every security question after he'd tried accessing my bank accounts with forged documents, yet the fear lingered. What was he planning next? A knock jolted me. Laura, my best friend and a child advocate with a knack for cutting through my chaos, leaned against the doorframe, her auburn hair catching the light. "You look like you haven't slept since the Clinton administration," she said, sliding a takeout bag of pho onto my desk. The warm, spiced aroma was a small mercy. "I haven't," I admitted, pushing the laptop away. "Robert's escalating. He's spreading lies to my firm, saying I'm unstable. Partners are starting to whisper, and Emily—" I stopped, the memory of her coffee shop ambush burning fresh. She'd screamed that I was sabotaging our parents' legacy, her voice carrying through the crowded cafe, drawing stares. "She thinks I'm the villain here." Laura sat across from me, her eyes steady. "Sarah, they're abusing Lily just like they did you. Robert calling her worthless, forcing her to scrub fireplaces while Emily's kids play. That's not discipline, it's cruelty. You're protecting your daughter. Don't let them gaslight you into guilt." Her words anchored me, but the weight of my childhood, the years of being Emily's shadow, the hand-me-down sweater at Christmas while she got designer clothes, pressed hard. I'd paid their mortgage, hoping to earn the love they withheld, only to see them turn that same toxicity on Lily. "I canceled the payments," I said quietly, redirected the money to Lily's trust, but now I'm terrified of what Robert will do. Laura leaned forward. "You're a corporate shark, Sarah. You've taken down CEOs in court. Robert's a bully, not a god. Protect Lily, protect yourself, and let him face the consequences." I nodded, but the knot in my chest didn't loosen. That evening, I picked Lily up from her therapist, Dr. Martinez, whose gentle voice had become a lifeline. In the car, Lily clutched a drawing, stick figures of us holding hands under a rainbow. "Dr. Martinez says I'm brave for telling the truth," she said, her hazel eyes searching mine. "Am I, Mommy?" "You're the bravest person I know," I said, my throat tight. At home, over mac and cheese, she hesitantly shared more. Robert had made her clean the estate's chimney flue, her small hands black with soot, while Chloe and Sophie watched cartoons. Margaret had told her not to eat cookies because she'd get fat like her daddy. The stories piled up, each one a dagger, and I cursed myself for missing the signs. Lily's silences, her flinches, her questions about why Grandpa was so mad. That night, after tucking her in, I opened my email to find another message from Robert. No words, just a grainy photo of me leaving my office, time-stamped yesterday. My breath caught. Was he following me? I forwarded it to the police, my hand shaking, and called my building's security to tighten access. Sleep didn't come. Instead, I lay awake, replaying the moment. Robert lunged to block the doorway as I tried to leave with Lily, his towering frame a ghost from my childhood. What was his endgame? The next morning, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Robert, his voice low and chilling. "You're ruining everything, Sarah. Fix the mortgage, or I'll make sure your precious career burns. You know I can." I saved it for the police, my resolve hardening. He'd already tried to smear me to my firm, whispering to partners that I was unhinged after my divorce. The damage was subtle but real. Sideways glances in meetings, a senior partner pulling me aside to check in. My partnership vote was months away, and Robert knew exactly where to strike. At work, I buried myself in a merger case, but the tension followed me. During a break, I called Aunt Clara, my mother's sister in Portland, who'd always been a quiet ally. "Sarah, I heard from Margaret," she said, her voice heavy. "She's spinning it as a misunderstanding, but I saw how they treated you growing up. Emily was the princess, you were the servant. I should have spoken up, but Margaret shut me out when I tried." "You noticed?" I asked, surprised. "Everyone did," Clara said. "And Robert's no saint. He burned through a $2 million 0 cents inheritance from your grandfather in 3 years. Yachts, bad investments, you name it. They always expected someone to bail them out. First your grandfather, now you." The revelation hit like a slap. My parents hadn't just mismanaged their estate. They'd built a life on entitlement, assuming I'd fund it forever. "Thanks, Clara," I said. "That helps more than you know." That afternoon, Emily ambushed me at Lily's school, her face flushed as she blocked my car door. "The bank's foreclosing because of you," she hissed, ignoring Lily's wide eyes in the back seat. Other parents stared, phones discreetly raised. "You're tearing our family apart over a tantrum." I kept my voice low, buckling Lily in. "They called Lily worthless, Emily, forced her to scrub floors while your kids mocked her. That's not a tantrum. It's abuse. And you stood by." Emily's eyes flickered, but she doubled down. "You're jealous, always have been. Mom and Dad loved me more, and you can't handle it." I shut the car door, facing her. "You were the golden child, but that didn't make you free. They used you, too, Emily. Think about it." I drove off, her silhouette shrinking in the rear view, but her words lingered. Was I jealous? Or was I finally seeing the truth? The next day, disaster struck. Robert and Margaret showed up at my firm during a pitch to a tech giant, their voices carrying through the glass conference room. "We need to see Sarah now," Robert bellowed, ignoring my assistant's protests. Margaret clutched a designer purse, playing the victim. "Our daughters abandoned us." The client, a steely CTO, raised an eyebrow, and I saw $10 million 0 cents slip away. I escorted them out, my face burning as security intervened, Robert shouting, "This isn't over, Sarah." Partners stared, whispers followed. My career, my sanctuary, was cracking under their... Dr. Martinez's report that evening was a lifeline and a wound. Lily shows trauma, low self-esteem, anxiety, fear of failure, she said. The verbal abuse from her grandparents is the cause. I recommend no contact until they change significantly. I nodded, guilt clawing at me. How had I let this happen? I'd been so focused on proving myself, to my firm, to my parents, that I'd missed Lily's pain. I arranged a therapy session with Dr. Rachel Cohen, a family trauma expert, demanding Robert and Margaret attend. The office was neutral, all soft grays and calming art, but the air crackled with tension. Dr. Cohen set ground rules: no interruptions, honest communication. I spoke first, voice steady despite my racing heart. "You emotionally abused Lily. calling her worthless, forcing her to clean while Emily's kids played, comparing her to them. It's the same pattern you used on me, favoring Emily, belittling me. I'm done funding it. I've paid your $4,500 0 cents mortgage for 5 years, but no more. Robert's face reddened. You're blowing this out of proportion. We were teaching Lily responsibility. You're too soft, Sarah. And the money? That was your choice. Cutting us off is vindictive. Dr. Cohen interjected. Robert, can you see why Sarah might feel protective after hearing her daughter called worthless? Kids need discipline, he insisted. The world won't coddle her. Humiliation isn't discipline, I snapped. It's abuse. Margaret's voice quavered, her socialite poise cracking. We love Lily. We're not perfect, but you can't cut us out. We're her grandparents. Actually, she can, Dr. Cohen said. Sarah has every right to protect her child from harm. Robert's eyes narrowed. And if we play ball, will you pay the mortgage again? The question hung like a guillotine. Not Lily's well-being, not our relationship, the money. No, I said. The payments are done. What I'm offering is a chance to see Lily if you change. Therapy, equal treatment of all grandkids, respect for my parenting. Margaret nodded reluctantly. If that's what it takes, we'll try. Robert scoffed but stayed silent, his jaw tight. The session ended with conditions: therapy for them, supervised visits only after progress, and no undermining me. I left feeling lighter but wary. Robert's silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. That night, I found a new voicemail. You're playing a dangerous game, Sarah, Robert growled. Fix a mortgage, or your firm will know exactly who you are. My blood ran cold. What did he have? Old emails? Fabricated stories? I saved the message, my lawyer's instincts kicking in. He was escalating, and I needed evidence. The next morning, my car wouldn't start. A mechanic found the battery cable slashed, deliberate and precise. No note this time, but the message was clear. I rented a car, dropped Lily at school, and filed another police report, my nerves fraying. At work, a partner pulled me aside. We heard about your parents' scene. Is everything okay? His tone was kind, but the subtext was clear. Fix this, or your partnership's at risk. Emily's next move came at a school recital. Lily, radiant in a sparkly dress, sang a solo, her voice trembling but clear. I clapped until my hands stung, but Emily cornered me afterward, her perfume cloying. The foreclosure's your fault, she whispered, smiling for the crowd. Mom's blood pressure's spiking. If she has a heart attack, it's on you. I stepped closer, voice low. They abused Lily, Emily. You saw it and did nothing. If you care about Mom, help her face reality instead of enabling her. Emily's smile faltered, but she walked away, leaving me with the sting of public eyes. That night, I checked my email to find an anonymous message with a photo of Lily at the recital, taken from the back row. No text, just the image. My heart raced. Was Robert there? Someone he'd hired? I called Dr. Cohen, scheduling an emergency session. This is harassment, she said. Document everything and consider a restraining order. The bank's foreclosure notice hit the next week, a cold, official letter to my parents' estate. Robert's response was immediate, a group email to our extended family, painting me as a heartless daughter, abandoning them over a minor disciplinary issue. It backfired. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years replied, sharing memories of Robert's favoritism, Margaret's silence. Aunt Clara called, her voice firm. You're doing the right thing, Sarah. They've always been manipulators. Let them face the consequences. Lily's therapy showed glimmers of hope. She drew happier pictures, laughed more, but still flinched at loud voices. Dr. Martinez suggested a supervised visit to test my parents' progress, but I hesitated. Robert's threats, the slashed cables, the photos. Could I trust them near Lily? Yet I craved resolution. a chance to break the cycle that had scarred me. The joint therapy session was a battlefield. Robert arrived disheveled, his techine polish gone, Margaret clutching a tissue. I laid out the evidence: Lily's trauma, the vandalism, the threats. Robert denied it all, his voice rising. "You're paranoid, Sarah. I'd never hurt Lily." "Then why the photos?" I pressed, holding up my phone. "Why follow me? Why slash my car?" His eyes flickered, caught off guard. Margaret gasped, turning to him. "Robert, what's she talking about?" Dr. Cohen intervened. "Robert, if these allegations are true, they're serious. Can you address them?" He leaned back, arms crossed. "She's exaggerating. Always has." Margaret's voice broke. "I saw you yell at Lily." I stood by, thinking it was discipline, but it wasn't. "And if you're doing these things to Sarah—" She trailed off, tears falling. For the first time, I saw doubt in her eyes. Not just guilt, but fear of who Robert was. The session ended with a breakthrough. Margaret agreed to separate therapy, admitting she'd enabled Robert's patterns. He resisted, but Dr. Cohen's firmness left him cornered. "If you want a relationship with Lily, you'll comply," she said. I set boundaries: no visits until 6 months of therapy, documented progress, and a public apology to Lily for their words. That night, I tucked Lily in, her stuffed bunny clutched tight. "Mommy, is Grandpa still mad?" she asked, her voice small. "Is learning to be kinder," I said, kissing her forehead. "But you're safe, and I love you no matter what." The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily, unexpected and raw. "I didn't know about the photos. Or the car." "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm starting therapy with the girls. Can we talk?" My heart softened, but trust would take time. I replied, "Let's meet next week. Bring Chloe and Sophie." Days later, I walked into my firm's boardroom for the murder pitch, the client back at the table. My voice was steady, my arguments sharp, and we closed the deal. Partners clapped me on the back, the whispers fading. At home, Lily ran to me, her drawing now a family us. Laura, even Emily's twins, under a bigger rainbow. "We're okay, right, Mommy?" she asked. "More than okay," I said, hugging her tight. Robert's threats hadn't broken us. Margaret's awakening, Emily's olive branch, Lily's resilience. They were proof we could heal. The estate would sell, my parents would downsize, and I'd keep fighting. Not just for Lily, but for the girl I'd been, who deserved better. What would Robert do next? Could Margaret change? Would Emily's therapy shift her girl's cruelty? The answers were out there, but for now, I held my daughter, our future brighter than any Seattle skyline.